It still sends a cold pulse through me, the way ordinary rooms became stage sets for something I could not name, the way small domestic betrayals stacked until they felt engineered. My brother told me the story 6 years ago. I have retold it in my head 1,000 times since, and the taste of it hasn't dulled. It started with a job, a simple tutoring gig. He had just finished college and was scraping for work when an old tutor of his recommended him to a wealthy family nearby. The money was good, the commute was short, and the house seemed, from the small house he first stepped into, to be wrapped in old comforts. He didn't know what he was walking into. The grandmother, retired bank manager, matriarch, moved, like someone used to signing the world into order. Her presence filled the room, a silent command that demanded obedience. He felt a prickle of unease at the back of his neck. The boy, the 10-year-old, was the opposite of ordered. He was a hurricane of entitlement in a small body. Food thrown from plates with flaming eyes, shrieks of fury that made the servants duck. Spoilt demands that the family answered as if coaxing a fuse not to be lit. He was chaos incarnate. The household explanation was simple and absolute. An astrologer had warned of a dangerous cycle through the boy's 15th year. They could not risk angering whatever fate might listen. So they softened the world around him until he became a brittle, glorious thing that cracked people. The family lived in fear of his tantrums. With my brother, he behaved oddly well. He was tall, nearly 6 feet, and broad in a quiet way that made even the boy hush his larger theatrics. That first month he suffered the child's boredom and arrogance, carrying a sour smile like a test. Something was different about him. He hadn't done homework in months. His explanations were monosyllabic and insolent. The family forbade punishment. They offered instead a bland indulgence that made the household hum with frustration. They watched him with fearful eyes, their hands clasped tightly in their laps. Then, one day, after a routine lesson, the boy was still, the books were open and neat. He worked through problems with a precision that belonged to someone who had practiced obedience. He was no longer the boy they knew. During lessons, he did not look up, did not speak. At meals, he ate everything without complaint. He was a perfect puppet, dancing to a tune only she could hear. The change was unsettling and absolute. My brother smelled something in the house that was not right clean. Rehearsed, the antiseptic of coercion, and asked the grandmother what had happened. He couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was afoot. Burnt water, she said, as if naming a spice. She called it jolpora, a remedy. It keeps him calm, she explained, patting his hair. The way one pats a bird that has been tamed. My brother felt the word grind in his teeth. The grandmother laughed softly, offered another cup of cardamom tea, the house's light returning to normal around them. He left with a polite mouth and a hollow chest. The changes accumulated. The boy stopped calling his grandmother Dee Dee, as he had at first. He began to call her ma'am. His vocabulary began to change. His intonation sounded like someone else. When she asked him to do anything, he abandoned his homework mid-sentence and obeyed with a mechanical alacrity. His obedience was unnatural, devoid of any spark. Once, mid-tuition, my brother watched the boy's eyes flick up at the grandmother and saw something like a relay closing, a tiny knot of attention snap into place and rewire direction. It was the most human and most terrifying thing my brother had ever seen. He realized he was dealing with something beyond his comprehension. I begged him to tell me everything. He did detail by detail while we sat in the thin kitchen light of our own small home and listened to the rain mangle the street outside. He told me about the child's fits of cruelty, the family's fearful deference, the grandmother's smile that did not reach her eyes when she spoke of the astrologer's warnings. When he asked my grandmother, who lived nearby and knew more herbal lore than any of us, what burnt water might be, her answer stripped the polite fantasy like paper from a wound. "It isn't a medicine," she whispered over the phone. "Not in any saner sense. It's a ritual. You chant, you breathe, you dot your fingertips and dip them. Heat will gather in the palm. Some call it protection, some call it control. Too much and it burns the soul. Just enough and someone will obey as if their own will were bent like a reed." My brother never went back. He called the family and told them he'd accepted the government job he'd been working toward, an urgent, sudden transfer that would take him far away. It was a lie. He needed to keep distance from a house that had learned to press people's nerves like instruments. He was running, but the fear continued to haunt him. If someone in that family could displace a child's agency, what would keep them from testing the limit on someone else? The thought haunted him, a constant whisper of dread. For 6 years we tried to convince ourselves the thing had been a desperate, ugly patchwork of fear and superstition, an old woman's dangerous fix that had finally been allowed to wither. He worked hard for his transfer. He slept occasionally with the old nausea of memory, sometimes waking to the echo of a child's angry cry or the soft, ceremonial murmur of a woman arranging control. Then, in the mall-slick lights and the smell of new plastics, I watched him freeze. He'd been walking with a stack of files from the office, a casual shape among commuters, when he saw him. The grandmother, her sari carefully ironed, and the boy, now taller, more rounded into adolescence, loped beside her, tugging at her sari like a child rehearsing his orders. The transformation was chilling. For a second, relief uncoiled in my brother. The boy laughed, bright and human, barging into the world as if he had recovered himself. He tossed his hair, asked for sweets, bargained with the grandmother in a way that looked, at distance, exactly like the boy had before any of that hush had fallen on him. Maybe, we thought, it had been a temporary cruelty.